Next up, you guys are in for a little change of pace. I think it'll be a real treat. I had a vision to make the legal issues discussion kind of an exciting and funny talk. And so, you know, as an adult, you start realizing now, careful what you ask for, right? And now I'd like to introduce Canyon Title's resident cranky old man, AKA our stand-up general counsel, and head underwriter, Mr. Robert Rosenthal, Esquire. Come on up, Robert. Robert wanted everyone in the room to know that he went to law school with Abraham Lincoln and has no people skills and is perpetually cranky. He also considers 2 tin cans and a string as advanced technology. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Robert, the stage is yours. Godspeed.
Thank you. A couple of things before we get started. Oops, sorry.
Sorry,
My
I
bad.
got you.
Everybody stand up. Make sure you have blood flowing to the lower extremities of your body. You have 1 minute to look at your cell phones if you've been trying to be polite, not watching it, to make sure that your house isn't on fire or your dog ran away, and then we'll sit back down. And this will be brief and hopefully worthwhile. And if you need a drink, what I'm going to be saying, you don't have to concentrate to understand. I don't have graphs. Let's see. Let's see if this works. There we go. All right. So take your time sitting down, don't worry. I want to point out 2 things that, because I am a cranky old man, I want to make sure everybody understands. Number 1, my first mortgage was an FHA at 15.5%. So anyone who complains about anything under 9% should really look at history. Things have changed. The other thing I wanted to say is that after undergraduate and before I went to law school, I spent 5 years as a carpenter, 3 years in Houston building big buildings, and 2 years in Saudi Aurora building homes for Hutchinson Homes. We basically had 18 sections north and east of Buckley and Hamden, and we were building as fast as we could, and still wasn't fast enough. So the point of that is that any of you who are able-bodied, if you have a construction transaction that you're trying to help along, go to Home Depot, get a tool belt, get a hammer, and volunteer, and get the job moving along. If it's hard to find skilled labor, then it's not that hard. If I could be a carpenter, anybody could. So, all right, I'm going to have some time at the end for questions, but if you need to ask questions, please feel free to interrupt. The most important thing from my perspective as both an underwriting attorney and I work almost exclusively on the commercial side, but the truth is there in many situations. The relationship amongst the bank, the homeowner, home builder, the general contractor, the title company, everybody, the agent, everybody that's involved in a project, either a new build or a rebuild or remodel, there has to be communication. That's how this all works. And so if your client who wants to buy a house, or build a house rather, but he wants to use an LLC to own the project or to defer some liability, the time to create the LLC is not 2 hours before closing. Correspondingly, if you're going to a lender with a project, lenders and title companies like to see what it's going to look like, where it's going to sit, what the rules are for the neighborhood, that sort of thing. One of the things that we do, and all title companies do this, and I will, I work for Canyon Title, so of course I'm going to say that we're wonderful, and we are, but all title companies can provide you with what's called a TBD commitment. If you don't know what a TBD commitment is, it's basically when we run a commitment just like we would normally do for a transaction, but we don't know exactly who all the players are. But what that gives you is, first of all, what we're going to be looking at as requirements, and second of all, what affects that property. So if you're in a platted development, we've got a platted lot, we can usually use an improvement location certificate. If we have something out east of Sterling, we probably are going to want something a little more robust, either an improvement survey plat or even potentially a full ALTA. So those are things that everybody needs to know on the front end. It minimizes, first of all, roadblocks, and second of all, it makes the process work. A measured pace is kind of nice, so if everybody does sort of their homework before you come in to the process, before you go to the lender, before you talk to the title company, it's always good to have your, hate this expression, but anyway, to be prepared, basically. So, unfortunately, because I value your time, I'm not going to stand up here and talk about zoning, construction defects, although I will say, let me tell you a story, just a quick story. So when I worked for Hutchinson in Aurora, when we hit bentonite, this was the sophistication with which we were building homes in the mid-1970s, we narrowed the footer that the basement wall sat on from 8 inches to 6 inches because, of course, that extra weight was going to hold that house down and it wasn't going to get up and walk across the street. That didn't work. But there are issues with construction defect litigation. We're trying to sort those out in the legislature. There are a lot of oxes being gored right now in the legislature. And I don't know, I'm a little less optimistic than I was at the end of the legislative session last year that we were going to figure things out. We may still do it, but there are ways to deal with that. So as well as any accounting issues, I can't help you with. So, and we don't need to talk about it. All right, so here's a picture. Broken priority means if I'm a lender, I'd like to be number one in your hearts and in your minds and also on your title. And if there's a mechanics lien issue, if there is an intervening party that wants to push the lender out of the way, that's a problem. And that's a problem that we try to help you with from the title insurance perspective. The lender and the owner and the general contractor and the title insurance company all work together to try and get that resolved. And there are a number of ways to do that. But we really, really, really want to avoid a lien situation or a broken priority situation. So there are a number of ways and number of issues that we look at. So you've decided to build your home on the range, and these are the present residents. As I said, the TBD commitment is a great way to assess what the issues are on the property. For instance, if you've decided that you're going to put your house in the middle of the lot and there just happens to be a 24-inch sewer line running through the middle of the lot, it's probably not a good place to put the house. Those sorts of things need to be identified. Some of those can be learned through surveys and ILCs. ILCs really don't show easements, don't show water lines, don't show utilities. So those are things that it's better to figure those things out on the front end. This is all about staying on top of what the issues are, what the problems might be. There is a due diligence process, of course, and I think you all understand what that is. And it's very helpful for all of us in this room to be part of that process. It's an easier problem to deal with for everyone, from a lending standpoint, from the homeowner standpoint, for agents, for everyone involved, if we try and curtail the problems before they ever become excessive. So when we send out a title commitment, we have two sections that are very, very important. The requirements section and the commitment section, and this is true for every title company in the state of Colorado. We all do the same thing. We all are related. I don't know if you all knew that, but for instance, David Dickert is in the room today. He's our underwriting attorney at North American Title. David and I worked together when we were at Land. And I've known David for a very long time as well. There's a lot of there are a lot of experts in this town in title insurance, and there are a lot of expert bankers. There are some very good builders. There are a lot of very good people. There are wonderful attorneys. We have lots and lots of attorneys. Don't encourage your children to become attorneys because they won't be able to get a job, but nevertheless, we have lots of them. All right, the typical requirements, as I said, for a residential construction loan, and that's what we're going to focus on. Let's see, I got to keep my pictures going. That, by the way, for anyone that remembers Laugh-In, that's Gary Owens, the guy that used to be the broadcaster, who says, and now now some new information. Here we have several matters that we look at, that your lender looks at, that we look at as the title company. If you have an attorney, the attorney will look at. When we're in a situation where we're going to be building a home, or we're going to even be remodeling a home, we want to be assured as a title insurance company that everybody is paying attention. So we have you sign an affidavit and we have you sign an indemnity, for instance, both of which say you're going to do your darndest not to have unhappy subs, unhappy parties who haven't been paid, unhappy people who are going to file notices of mechanics liens, because that causes issues. And if you didn't already know it, let me tell you now, as a title company, and your lender will do the same thing, we like to see lien waivers, lien releases, as opposed to notices of lien. So in other words, we like people being paid, we like an orderly process, we like everything to be finished and signed off, and we go on to the next project. So if there are liens and problems, then we've got to get together and talk. And I'm going to skip that because it's too small to read. All right, you'll notice that our president is down there in the lower right-hand corner, and what he's talking about there is extreme vetting, and that's one of my favorite phrases of his. This is important, and this is the kind of thing that you do on the front end. Again, you look at who the contractors are, you look what their history is, you look at whether there have been soil problems where you're going to build. You look at, if you're going to do a remodel, you look at asbestos issues, you look at sewer problems, you look at water issues. There's a lot more going on in terms of construction than just selling a piece of dirt, selling a house that's going to be remodeled. We all have to collectively, and one of the things that you're going to learn about the next 10 years in this country is that it's time to volunteer again, folks. This is kind of like World War II, when everybody had to participate in the process. We all need to volunteer because, quite frankly, the money isn't there to make things happen out of the sky. You know, as much as we'd like money to rain out of the sky, it isn't going to rain out of the sky. So you have to be involved. You have to look and peel back the covers and make sure that you understand all of the things that are important in either a new build or a remodel. And those are having good people, having a banker that is involved and aware and tuned in to what's going on, and everyone else has to be helping. So this is the time to stand up and pick up a hammer if that's what it takes to get your project done. All right, surveys are important. We have a lot of people in Denver. We have some wonderful surveyors. We have a bunch of wonderful companies that do improvement location certificates. But if I may give you one word of advice, as a title insurance company, we like to have the ability to know what the heck it is we're insuring. So that's something that we need to talk about at the very beginning when the project is starting. So if we can all agree to talk and visit about, and that goes for the lender too, because the lender wants to know as well what's going on, all right? When we talk about deleting the mechanics lien exception, we can modify it sometimes. Lenders like to be insured. We like to have happy lenders. So we, again, this goes back to the extreme vetting piece. We like to have everyone on the same page, paying attention and understanding what the problems are. Now, obviously, we don't know everything. We can't know everything. We've proven that. And again, we go back to the communication piece. We all need to communicate. We all need to share. We all need to have contact information. I particularly love when I get a phone number and an email address for everybody involved. It's easier for us to talk to them. So, all right. How was that? Was that 10 minutes? Yeah, good. Any questions? No? Good.
What an exceptional closing slide. Unthinkable occurs. Thank you very much.